Most of the time we end up with have we working with people even though we think that we share the same goal, but we seem to have our own interest and maybe asymmetric information that we need to share. The best is that we share information that we have, but the thing is how can we get people to trust each other to openly reveal what they have or what they know to other team member. That is from the last time. And for one technique that's that is found to be very effective in group decision making is we call brainstorming. But let me point out that brainstorming is different from what we call interacting group discussion. Just according to this slide, interacting group discussion may be something that you already familiar with when we got to work with people in a group. So we met in person and then we discuss. But just to meet in person and discuss will not make that decision making to be brainstorming. To be brainstorming is mean that we have to defer judgment. Alright, because in the process of the real brainstorming or the good brainstorming, we don't care much about quality of the idea, but we want to have quantity, meaning that we would like to generate a lot of idea. And we're not looking for like appropriate idea, because if we try to just come up with appropriate idea, we have no point to take off to something very innovative. So therefore, in brainstorming, we try to encourage one idea, weird idea, go weird as much as you can, and no criticism. No idea can be criticized, because if we start criticize each other, it will make us to be very careful when we say something. And we don't want that to happen, because we want one idea in the process of brainstorming. That's this brainstorming. But most of the time we face challenge when we work in group because of this issue. Especially for the first one, social loafing. This is we have already discussed in details in our case. So therefore, I'm gonna pass that and jump to group dynamics, which is the elements that we have when we work in a team. In fact, this is title of the course that we target for you to lead team management / leadership. So we talk about this because now today it's very hard that you're gonna be like solo artist. You have to work with other, and if you are a good leader, you have to be able to lead team. To lead team is mean that you have to create team, you have to build team, you have to get people on board with you. So this is about teamwork. How we can manage team? This is to help you to make distinction between group and team. In the other word, all teams are group, but not all groups are team. Because when we're talking about team, it means that member in team that share responsibility, they have complement skills. Just like in sport, that when people working in a team, maybe one person good at this, one person good at that. But when they put everything together, they can create synergy. This is we aim to work on it when we work as a team. But to work as a team, quite very challenging. Even though we often heard that team works, but not all team works. And some even say that it become big challenge in Thai culture because of maybe our maybe the thing that we used to. For example, working in group in a team would be very effective, for in terms of result, if we can freely share our idea. But sometimes, for example, in Thai culture, we have a seniority when someone in higher level says something and we don't want, if you are junior, you don't want to say something different, or maybe because we in a culture of safe fast, you want to look good, so to make yourself look good, silence is golden. If you don't say something, people cannot tell if you're smart or not. But if you say something probably people will judge you. Therefore, that can become challenge working in a group or in a team. And some even say that in Thai culture, we tend to take things personal. But actually, when we have conflict, it should be only just past conflict. It should not lead to effective or relationship conflict. So this is something that we have to deal with. And this is major issue that if we would like to understand group dynamics, composition, in the other word, who should be in a group or in a team. Someone would say that words are actually to lead team easy, just good people working together, that's it. But it's not that easy and simple because from even in research too, when we put good people, people who are have very good skill, they believe that they're good working together. They end up that they cannot work together as a team very well. Because when you believe that you are good, you tend not to listen to others. You have ego, and this is going to be a big problem working up with others in a group or in a team. Alright, we talk about status. We will not talk about size, because this is only from group presentation. That's social loving, and yes, size matter. Someone says size doesn't matter, but for us, size does matter. Because if the size of the group is too big, it can lead to social loving. We just would like to have this, the right size with the task that we do, leadership and cohesiveness. But before we talk about that in detail, let me show you this model. This is going to be very helpful for you, not only for your exam, but also for if you try to understand how to actually manage group or manage team. Alright, so this is how we can tell if that team effective or not. Just like in your simulation, as you can see that you got two results. One is goal achievement, but for the simulation, they just look at individual goal achievement. For each goal, for example, for a leader, for a physician. But actually, we can look at goal as a whole, as a team. But for the simulation, they make it clear that they don't want to show goal for each team, because they would like to emphasize that everyone will bring in their own interest working together in biology. Therefore, in terms of result, we just show individual goal achievement. But for in teamwork, regular teamwork, we look at if team actually achieve their goals. But it's not the only criteria to tell us if that team effective or not. We have to look at satisfaction of team member and if they would like to keep working together. Even though that team can achieve that goals, but after they're done, everybody just I had it. I don't want to work with this person anymore in a group or in a team. We cannot say that that group is effective because it's not just about result per se, but about how employee, how member happy with the process. Therefore, in that simulation, they have two survey. One survey after I think after the third round, and the second survey is for at the end of the simulation. That is to talk this is to show about satisfaction or how you think about your effectiveness, how you look at your team in terms of conflict and other things. Okay, so this is criteria that we should use to evaluate if that team effective or not. To achieve this, there are three main parts according to this model. One part is context. For example, rewards. If we want person to contribute to team, we should have rewards that tie to team contribution. If we mostly rely on just individual contribution, chances are each individual they just concerned about that achievement. Okay, so reward can help. Communication, of course. Without communication, it's very, very hard to coordinate or work with others and structure. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time to cover about how we should structure organization. But in your textbook, there one chapter that's talk about organizational structure in detail. So if you are interested, you can take a look. And also leader in a team. In team, we don't need boss, but we do need leader. We cannot work together in a team without a leader, but we don't need a boss in a team. So leadership can be something that make a difference working in a team, and it will be great, if everyone shows self leadership within themselves. And physical spaces mean that, for example, an open floor office does help in terms of working together as a team or as a group. Alright, that is the first box. And next, we will tackle issue about team design and team process. Alright, for team design, who should be in a team? We have two types of team, homogeneous group and heterogeneous group. Homogeneous group means members share same similar characteristics. Example can be like the current government cabinet. I think this is homogeneous because most of them are male, and with that age, about like 50, 60 age, and have background in military. So that can be example of homogeneous group. And if we have a group that comprised of people from different background or maybe different gender, different age, this is we consider to be heterogeneous group. Which one is better? Well, according to this picture, as you can see that, well, in the beginning, homogeneous groups tend to perform better than diverse group. But later, diverse group can outperform homogeneous group. Can you explain why this happened? It happened because normally when we work in a since I want to keep talking, therefore probably you cannot answer. It happened because of this. Normally we have what we call stages of group development to explain how we work together in a group. Well, first stage we call forming. We get together, we introduce ourselves, we talk about mission of our group and our goal of the group. That nothing much done, but just get together. That is forming. And after forming stage is storming. Meaning that when we, start working together, we reveal our true color. For example, we supposed to meet at 9, but that person come at 10, and this become, problem. This is storming stage. But if we can get through storming stage, we go to norming. So we understand this is what we're supposed to do. This is acceptable. This is unacceptable. This is something that we have to take it. This is something that we have to just let it go. So that's the norming stage. And after norming is performing, we can actually perform the task. And after task done, this is at journey. This is just we call development of group when we work in a group. But the question is, let's answer this question together. True or false? Our group must go through the stages in this order and then regress to the earlier stage. True or false?
False.
True or false? Yes, false. Maybe some group they just got to storming and they cannot go further to norming or performing. Or some group when they go to performing, they regress back to forming, get new member, change something new member. So that can happen. That not all will go through all the stages. So it leads to next question that in that case, why do we have to know? Right? If not all groups have to go through all the stages. It's good to know because knowledge from these stages help member and later understand groups' behavior and take appropriate action. Meaning that when you experience conflict, or storming, this is natural. When we work in a group and a team that we have to sometimes encounter conflict or storming working with other. So it's not like the end of the world. Because if we can pass through that, we can move to norming or performing. Alright, so therefore, number 2, true. Number 3, true or false, in terms of leadership. Participate leadership meaning that leader listen to other, what you would like to do, what you think. It's more important in earlier stages, while structural leadership is more important in later stages. Structural leadership means leader have structure, tell member to do this and that. So this one is true or false? And the answer is false. Because actually, in the beginning, earlier stage, structural leadership is more appropriate. Because, we just form and especially in storming, we need someone to stop the conflict. And, okay, you guys stop and you have to do this and that, when things is not in the way that they're supposed to be. But once, when we getting on track, participative leadership is more appropriate. And maybe this is the explanation why General Prayut Chan-o-cha get less popular. Because he started off with structured leadership, and that time people appreciate his leadership style. But once everything get in the way that it's supposed to do, but he doesn't change his leadership style. He still keep structure leadership, and lots of people just I'm not happy with the leadership style anymore because I want leader to listen, I want leader to do this and that. All right. Therefore, the difficult part of leadership is that you can change your leadership style to suit with the situation. But it's become challenge because we most of the time we just we stick with our one style that we feel comfortable with. But if you want to be great leader, you have to be able to change your leadership style to different situation. In the other word, what make one person succeed at one point may not guarantee that if you keep doing that, you're gonna succeed again because things change. Okay, and this is our part as difficult part in management because no recipe for anything. And is it true or false? Feedback become more general, less frequent, and more negative as team progress through the stages. And the answer is false because we tend to have more specific, more frequent, but also more positive. As we get to know each other, we get close to each other. We give feedback, but most of the time it tends to be positive because we would like to keep things smooth, working in a team. And last question. Is it true or false? Unclear deadline make team works less efficient. So true. Therefore, it's a must to have deadline because if you have a must, it's done. But without deadline, things can keep going, not enough time to do that. But once when it's the deadline, it's done. Okay. Therefore, if you want to be efficient, you have to come up with deadline, working in a group and working in a team. But speaking of which, in terms of deadline, there are also model that called punctuated equilibrium model, talking about it doesn't matter how long is a deadline. It can be like 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months. But most of the time, it will be divided into two parts. First, in the middle of the deadline, first stage and second stage. On the first stage, mostly it's it's include farming, storming, norming. Mostly about socio emotional role, or something that's role. It's just not involves about a lot of getting work done much. So not a lot of work get done in the first half of the deadline. But once we pass the first half of the deadline, maybe someone say, "Hey, we have just about half time left." We will get excited, but maybe just a little while. And then a lot of work will get done when it's getting close to the end. So this is punctuated equilibrium model. And by the way, this is from Western idea. So probably it's universal because it's also happened in Thailand too. So but it doesn't mean that I'm telling you this is way that we're supposed to do. No, this is way that usually happen. But it will be good for us if we manage team that we try to distribute activity, across the timeline. So we will not get just overwhelmed with a lot of activity in the end of the deadline. But be careful that we tend to fall into this model that we don't do anything much in the beginning, even though we have time, and then we just spend up our time getting to the end of the deadline, do we get work done, and it can affect quality of our work if we go with that. All right. Next is okay. Can you answer this question together? A group of employees with accounting expertise need to adapt their procedure in response to changing within the organization. The group decided to hold each member accountable for a meaningful task and to exhibit the process so that everyone openly expresses their opinion. The group was trying to prevent and da. The answer is, remember this? Yes, very good. The first one is social loafing because when you have people accountable for meaningful tasks, so they enjoy it, so they want to do it anyway. So that social loafing, and when we can express our idea freely, it can prevent to think. So this is something we talked about that before. We role overload for just we have too many roles. What about the ask effect? What is ask effect? So let's talk about ask effect. Ask effect is about group norms. When we work together, we tend to form norms. Not what does it mean by norm? It's something like we know that this is something that we should do, something that we should not do. Maybe written, maybe spoken, or implicit, but it's just something that we know. And when we have norm, we tend to comply to norm, especially the newcomer in a group or in a team. For example, this is that's ask effect. That's this one. This experiment is done by Ed Solomon. He have two cards, and then he have both A and B. And the question is, look at the length of line in A, and look at the length of line in B. Which number that close to line in card A? And it's just plain and simple. The answer is 3. But the thing is, they have people in a group, which is that people answer 2, not 3, and then they observe that for the participants or sample, what's going to be answered, and it turned out that most people go with majority, which is answer 2. Which is quite obvious that that line is very close, the length very close to number 3. But since other people they answer 2, they must be right. So this is in talking about non-conformity. I also have experiment, but this is in Thai, therefore I don't want to show it with you. It's just like plain something like color. This is it's just plain, but it's have that people to say that actually the color is blue, and then they monitor that if in the experiment will people say that it's blue or green, and it's turned out people just go with what other people say, and this is we call non-conformity. When we see we see other people in group, majority of people in the group do what, and then we try to conform with what they do. Therefore, we have to be very careful about norm in our group or in our team. If it's negative norm, for example, in our company is always trying to take advantage of us. It's like if you're smart, you have to try to take advantage of everyone. And this is if it's not negative norm, this is not good. Or maybe it's a norm even though we know that we have lunch break from 12 to 1, but it's not that nobody come back before 2, and this is also a symbol of negative norms. So nobody come back at the look before 2, so why should I? So it's become everyone come back after lunch maybe to something. This is negative norm. So if we see that this is we see negative norm in our group, we have to do something. We have to try to change. We have to try to okay, this is not good, and how we can change that norm. But if it's positive norm, we try to keep that. We try to maintain that positive norm. That is about norm. And this is how to prevent and change dysfunctional team norms. And another concept we call cohesion or cohesiveness. It's mean attraction. People feel toward the team or in a group. So when we have high level of cohesion, we want to stay in a group or in a team. Something like we have harmony, working together in our group or in our team. In that case, how we should manage cohesion? Okay, how to manage cohesion can be done by answer this following this question. First, too much team cohesiveness can be a problem to the organization, true or false? And the answer I think is very simple, because too much of something is not good. Too less of not, of something is not good either. Okay. So therefore, yeah, it's not good. Too much of team cohesiveness can be problem. But what can come if or what can be what can be a consequence of too much team cohesiveness? What problem can we think if you recall? Because when we have high cohesiveness, we don't want to have arguments. We want to just go along with whatever we say. So and that can lead to groupthink or non-conformity, especially if the norm is not good. Number two, in general, success leads to cohesion rather than cohesion causing success. And it's true or false? In general, true. Because when we do something and succeed, we happy and we tend to stay with the group. We want to stay with people that we work with. But it's not cohesion that causes success, because as we mentioned in question number one, that too much cohesion can lead to groupthink. And number three, talking about size of a group can affect cohesiveness, meaning that when the group is small, we tend to have higher cohesion. If the group is too large, maybe because of interaction, so we always can hurt cohesiveness. Number four, external threat hurt team cohesiveness. True or false? It's true. No. It's actually it's not hurt. It's
strengthen.
It's support. It increase cohesion because we tend to stay together if we have common enemy. Okay, maybe we don't really like each other, but once we share enemy, so we stay together. At least we help each other.
Korea.
So that therefore some organizations they try to increase cohesiveness by having something like competition. For example, competition amongst sales team. Which cell can make the highest sales, something like that, and got reward. So within that team, they will just stick together, try to win that competition. But if organization implement that policy or that techniques, they have to be aware that it can create inter-conflict between group in the organization. All right. Member of cohesiveness team enjoy more satisfaction and less turnover. Yes, this is definition of cohesion. That when we have cohesion, we want to stay together. We don't want to lose group. And other sources of group attraction can be charisma leader. If leader have charismatic leader, it can be a great help for group to stick together. That's cohesiveness. Okay, cohesiveness and performance. Is cohesiveness good or bad? Well, it depends. It depends on what? It depends on group norms. As you can see from this slide and also from this slide, that's it worst situation if the group have negative norm and high cohesion. Because everyone gonna do the same thing, and that is something is not good for organization. But it's gonna be the best if we have cohesion and we have positive norm. But once again, even though we say it's high cohesion, but it's not too high, because it's too high, it can lead to dysfunctional of cohesiveness.
That's a great slide.
Okay, working together we need trust. So we need to build trust in the organization. And this is a level of trust. We think from calculus base, meaning that because we can trust that person, because if that person do something bad for us, it's gonna affect that person too. Or knowledge, because I know that person, I have knowledge about that person, therefore I can trust that person. But for identification, it's just mostly based on emotion, because I trust that person with no reason. So it's can be like they have show high level of trust. But speaking of trust, econs they look at trust different from behavioral science. This is game theory in econ. that when person, maybe someone, if you're familiar with economics game theory, that we have two person, prisoner A, prisoner B. They did something bad, but policemen didn't have enough evidence to convict either one of them. So the cop offered that, well, if you say something, for example, if prisoner says something, prisoner A will go free and prisoner B will stay in prison for 2 years. But if both of them give information at the same time to policemen, it serves 2 years. But if nobody said anything, it serves only 1 year. So the best situation should be they keep quiet, right? But the thing is, we have to trust the other party. And econ say that we cannot trust human being. So it's better that we have to say something. But in behavioral science, we say, well, trust is valuable. So we try to cultivate trust. Especially trust is important working in a team. But the thing about trust is that sometimes it takes time to build trust. But it's kind of like just a second to destroy trust. That's something that we have to be very careful. All right. So last is about type of team, which is I think is pretty straightforward. Distinguish between self-directed teams that team have autonomy to, for example, select person who work in a team, to reward member in a team, or multicultural teams that we work with people from different culture, and some virtual team that we don't actually have a chance to meet in person, but we can work together by maybe information technology, modern device that help us to work together even though we don't stay together. Alright, so that's to sum up, this is requirement for effective team that we got commitment from top management, employee trust, willingness to take risks, information sharing, time, resources, training, and in terms of individual. We require team members to be open-minded, have emotional stability, accountability, ability to solve problems, communicate with others, especially listen to other, conflict resolution skill, and trust each other. That's pretty much about team dynamics. And last is motivation. I will spend time, the rest of the time that we have, talking about motivation. Right, but I'm not worried about this because we just listened to the presentation. So, before we do that, let's talk about engagement. Alright, we talk about this because this is the term that we often heard in working place, that we talk about engagement. Okay, so maybe someone just say engagement, but in terms of research, I think there's a little bit different between job engagement, organizational engagement, and employee engagement. For me, I see employee engagement just like a big umbrella, big picture. And job engagement and organizational engagement are part of employee engagement. Alright. In the other word, when I'm talking about employee engagement, it means that person or that employee engage with their work and organization. Because it doesn't mean that these two engage at work and engage with organization will come together at the same time. But the best situation that we want people to be engaged with their work and engage with organization. What does it mean by job engagement or engage with their work? There's an investment of an employee's physical, cognitive, emotional energy into job performance. In the other word, they work with 3H, work with hands, because hand is physical. They actually perform that work. But we know when we talk about engagement, it's just not about work with hand per se, but also work with hand. They have to think, about how to get that work done nicely. That's the second H. And the third H is they have to work with heart, emotion. So this is how I describe engagement, my own term, which is different from consulting firm, for example, Gallup or Hewitt. When they explain engagement, they explain with 3S, which is my version is 3H. But for consulting firm, what's called consulting firm, they explain with 3S, which is they're talking about first S is say. They explain that when people engage, they have to say something good about the organization. And stay, which is they stay with the organization, and strive for organization, STRIVE, strive for organization. Which is basically, when you look at this definition, it's not about people work hard because they want to stay, they say good thing with organization. So for me, it's just organizational engagement. It probably cannot, it may not drive performance, but it just but it make people to stay with the organization. But it doesn't mean that when they stay, they're gonna be productive. This is the reason why I believe that it will be the best. If we're talking about engagement, that we include both, 3H and 3S in when we explain engagement. All right, they stay and also they engage with that work. And this is how to enhance employee engagement. We can do we can it can be done by communication, set a clear direction, promote stability, security, emphasize career growth. People see the chance that they will get advancement in the organization, recognize the recognition reward, and also focus on retention, meaning that they have security working with the organization. That's just technical term about engagement, in case that when and because it's very often that we heard engagement in the workplace. Therefore, this is the reason that why I brought this up. But engagement is not equally emotion. For me, emotion is the big picture. Engagement can be a part of motivation. So from now on, we'll spend time talking about motivation. Motivation is a force within one person that's is include these three elements: direction of effort, intensity, and persistence. Meaning that when if you are motivated and at work, when your boss tell you do this, this report or assignment, direction of effort is to do things. And intensity meaning that do it, how hard you do that. And also, even though you experience obstacle, you try to overcome that obstacle until you get it done. So this is direction of effort, intensity, and persistence. Put it together, and it's explain why in the old tale that's rabbits can lose tortoise, even though this guy walks slowly, because this guy is very motivated in a way that they keep going with persistence. While rabbit stop under a tree because so take a nap, maybe something like that. This maybe because this is motivation that make a difference in this story. But what about in this part two? Because rabbit feel like, this is a shame for my species that I lost tortoise. So therefore, rabbit challenge tortoise again, and then for that race, rabbit so sure that if I have effort, I have intensity and persistence, which is put together motivation, I should win. Therefore, they ask for that race. And just whenever tortoise ready, just let me know, and you can choose wherever you want to have that race. And believe it or not, in that second race, rabbit lost again. The reason that rabbit lost again is because that race is take place the way that have the liver. Since rabbit cannot swim, therefore even though rabbit has high determination, have motivation, rabbit cannot win either. And this is what I'm trying to say, that this is because it's not just motivation in the picture. To answer this question, does high motivation mean better job performance? And the answer is not really. It's not always. Because when we manage performance, it's not just about motivation. It's also ability. Therefore, in that book that I just showed you before, talking about that experiment, chocolate experiment, that book, that Avery. Actually, part of experiment, I would say that it's not very, it's not carefully done, because they try to prove that money is not everything. So they give money as a reward to person who can win the game, which is before they can enter, they can play game. They will do lucky draw about reward, how much reward that they will get. For example, they have low reward, medium, and then high reward. And then they find correlation between level of reward and performance of person who play game. And it turned out that, level of reward have nothing to do with performance. And they concluded, see, money is not important. But I beg to differ, because it's, in that game, it's not about motivation to win the game. It's also ability, if you see what I mean. Therefore, even though people have high motivation to do certain things, but if that person have no ability, it cannot lead to high performance. Unfortunately, we cannot talk about different things at the same time. Therefore, from now on, we focus on motivation. But please keep in mind that motivation is not the only answer in performance. You have to put into consideration other factors that lead to performance, which can be ability and environment. Okay, let's focus on motivation. Is money the only motivator? Of course not. We have credit card, we have e-money, we have e-card nowadays. But to answer that, if not only money, what can motivate people? That under content theory, which is, in presentation, you already listened to Maslow, Eckhart, and Herzberg. So I will talk about Alder first, and then I will continue to present daily. Okay, this is our plan. Alright, so we done Maslow, we done. Okay, let's talk about ERG. ERG is a refinement of Maslow. Since Maslow cannot explain what actually happened, so I refer purpose ERG. Basically, ERG, regroup needs, just the same as Maslow, but for physiological needs and safety needs, ERG call it existential needs, and this is E. And or relatedness is for social belonging needs. And for G, growth needs, it's from esteem and self-actualization, so it becomes E or G. But just to regroup, maybe not a big, different, it's not the reason why we have to learn about ERG. A big contribution of ERG that is change assumption. First, that ERG have what we call frustration regression process, meaning that when people for example they want this need relatedness, they try hard to satisfy these needs, but no matter how hard they try, they cannot satisfy these needs. They got frustrated. That can make them to regress to the lower needs. And this cannot happen in Maslow, because Maslow can just progression, just can go up one way. But for ERG, needs can go up and down. Alright, so this is more flexibility in terms that we explain human needs, and it got more support because we, it's complicated. We, we don't want to just go one way, we can go low. And another assumption that ERG different from Maslow. So Maslow believes that just one need at a time that can motivate employees. But for ERG, we can have several needs at a time. So meaning that a person can have both existence and relatedness at the same time. And this can explain reality that we want this, we want that, we want that. Alright, so this is what we know. This is the reason why make ERG seem to be able to explain what actually happened. Okay, so we done in content theory. Oh, not really. In Herzberg. since in Habsburg, that's one what can motivate or lead to job satisfaction is work itself. It has nothing to do with money. And this idea lead to job design. Which is this job design. How we can design a job. And once again, it has nothing to do with money. It's a job that employee perform. Well, we have different type of job design, job simplification, meaning that we simplify job. We just have like maybe just a few work activity for each individual, and then they just keep perform that job. It can lead to work specialization, and of course, specialization lead to efficiency. But when people just keep doing the same thing over and over again, they can get bored, and it's not motivating employees because when they get bored, they don't want to go to work. They even would like to quit the job. Therefore, we have job enlargement and job rotation. Enlarge, we need large, made it bigger. Employees perform different type of job. For example, if you compare between job design like McDonald's and Subway, you see that McDonald's go with job simplification, very specific. They distinguish between tasks at the kitchen and for the cashier that they do exact job and just a few job. But for Subway, when you go Subway, the person who take your order also the person who make the sandwich and person who collect money from you. So maybe Subway example of job enlargement. We will not say which is the best. It probably depends on, for example, Subway they have limited menu, but for McDonald's they have blind lunch menu. Therefore, they have to go with job simplification. But anyway, in terms of motivation, we believe that job enlargement or job rotation, meaning that we rotate people. They perform this job for maybe for a certain period of time, and they rotate to different type of job. That can get them excited when they get to do new work. That can have something to do with work motivation. Nonetheless, these two are not the best way to motivate. We believe that the best way to motivate is by job enrichment, meaning that we give more autonomy, we give freedom to employees. Example of job enrichment can be something like allow employees to come up with the way of their work. They can plan their own work. They have their own control. They have more freedom at work. That's people believe that this can enhance work motivation. It's the best compared to other way to design job. But to use job enrichment, it can be very costly to organization because it means that employees might be ready to take on more responsibility and autonomy, and not everyone are ready. Right. So, but it leads to what we call job characteristic model, which is we believe that from these 5 characters of the job, it can lead to work motivation. For example, if that job requires high skill ability, we need a lot of skills to perform that job. Our task identity, we can see how the job get done. When the job get done, or employees they feel that their task is significant, or they have autonomy, they have feedback. It can lead to positive psychological state and it leads to outcome. That's according to this model. And by the way, everything here are already in Blackboard. If you want, the PDF file. If you want that, so you can just go to Blackboard and download the PDF file. And at the bottom it says modulator. Modulator means that this model probably can explain someone, but cannot explain other. For example, if that employee doesn't have knowledge and skill, when they have to perform the job that requires skill or ability, probably it will not affect them positively. So it's just it can different it depends on other factors. It's not everyone gonna respond. Not everyone gonna respond to those characteristics exactly the same way. We also have individual difference. And this is explanation, to support why we feel about a job can affect our motivation. This is exactly the same type of task. A man was walking down the street carrying heavy stone. A passerby asked him why, and he replied, "I'm safe. I have to do it." So no motivation at all. Second man, walking down passed by the street and exactly carrying a heavy stone and was asked the same question. He replied, I am paid to do it. It's heavy work, but it's not a bad job. So as you can see, okay, maybe second man is probably have more enthusiasm at work. But for the third man, exactly the same thing, carry the heavy stone. But when he were asked with that question, the answer is, "I'm building a corridor," he replied. So you can see that from this type of mindset, it can motivate someone to perform exactly the same job just because he have that mindset, because he experienced positive psychological state. This is something to support the idea that we call job characteristic. All right, so that's that is we already listened from group presentation, so we're gonna pass that. Okay, last one. Last one in before we move on to process. All right, so according to this, answer this together. A manager made the following work assignments based on his. Actually, this is not the last one. This is just before the last one. What should be the answer if we would like to assign work according to employee needs, like colonies that you just listen from the presentation? Sam responsible for arranging new employees to the team. Rex responsible for operation of the entire division. Jose R&D. Which of the following set of pair would be probably true? I heard someone already answered. Yes, very good. Okay. B because Sam affiliation. When responsible for arranging new employees, Sam got to meet newcomer. What's your name? My name is Sam. This is my line. You have QR code. So this is affiliation. And for Rex, responsible for operating of the entire division, have power. And Jose because they want answer. So this is good for R&D achievement. All right. So that's next. Let's move on to this one. Okay, this is the last one. Which of the following weighting of reward criteria would be most likely to maximize performance and least likely to lead to ethical behavior? This is based on law of effect. What we want will be repeated. Law of effect. If we do something and it turns out to be positive consequence, we want to do it again. Okay, so if we want to motivate maximum performance and least likely to lead to unethical behavior, what should be way that we should use in weighting reward criteria? A, B, C, or D? Yes, I heard someone say B. The reason is B because we don't want C and D. We don't want C and D because C and D have seniority, and it have nothing to do with performance, right? Just because you are old it doesn't mean that you have to drive performance just because you old, just that. So okay, we don't want C and D because it's have seniority. So we have A and B. And B is better than A because we also want something that least likely to unethical behavior. If we put too much on result 90%, chances are people just, the ends always justify the mean. They probably don't care much about how they do or what they do. Therefore, we should put into consideration actions and behavior 50%, not only just result. And this is what I use this question because I would like to lead to reinforcement theory. What we reward is mean that we reinforce that behavior to happen again. For example, I work really hard and I'm not rewarded. law of effect would suggest that I will, of course, you work very hard and you're not rewarded, you're gonna quit. But okay, let me explain techniques in reinforcement theory. It's easy to get confused. So pay attention closely because it's not complicated. Okay, this when we're talking about reinforcement, mostly it's about behavior, and you can apply that in motivation. As you can see that we have 4 techniques, but among that 4 techniques, we have behavioral increase and decrease. See, the first box, behavioral increase, and also the fourth one, behavioral increase, but for the second and third, behavioral decrease and decrease. So this is the main distinction. So in the other word, we have 2 techniques to increase behavior with positive or negative. For example, in classes, I would like to increase good behavior, for example, like contribution in the class or answer question, participation in the class. I can go with positive reinforcement when someone participates in the class. I have reward. I have check that is positive reinforcement. But at the same time, if I would like you to participate, increase behavior, but if I go with negative reinforcement, undesired consequence, you do it because you want to withdraw that undesired consequence. It can go like I ask you something question. What do you think about this? And if you keep quiet, I will say, come on, this is July. So you should be July student. And if you still keep quiet, I will probably ask you, are you aware that something between your ears should be your brain? It should not be something empty. I probably ask, female student that, your hair is not just, it's just a wrap for your hair. Just go to hairdresser and do your hair. Have something inside, answer. So, some of you will answer just to avoid or withdraw that negative consequence. See, it's the same that I would like that to see that behavior, but I just go with positive and negative. And as you can figure it out, that positive is more effective than negative. Therefore, if you are a person who nag your boyfriend or girlfriend to do this and that, and he or she do just because to avoid your nagging, that you're using negative reinforcement. Stop doing that. It's not timing. If you understand psychological stuff, you have to go with positive reinforcement. And also, but the thing is, actually, in terms of idea and concept, it's not difficult. But when we actually, in reality, sometimes we get confused that we reward behavior A while hoping for behavior B. What does it mean by that? You would like people, you want people to tell you the truth. But if someone tell you the truth, then you don't like them. You make them get into trouble. Chances are you will not get the truth in the future. That the example of you hoping for A, but you reward behavior B, or you don't want to see kids selling stuff on the street. But are you a person who actually buys stuff from those kids? If you buy stuff from those kids, it means that you reinforce them to keep coming back. If you don't want to see them, you should not buy stuff from them. So this is just your positive reinforcement. But for behavior decrease, punishment and extinction. Well, I don't want students to use cell phone in my classroom. When someone use cell phone, I just take that cell phone. That is punishment. Or extinction, behavior decrease. When someone send me message line, I probably first I want to talk to them, so decide with behavior, I reply that message. But later I'm just make decision that person is boring. I don't want to talk to that person anymore. So when that person send me message, maybe first step I don't read and I don't respond. Okay. But if they don't get it, I probably read but no response. For several times, they stop saying message. They get message. So that's the extension. All right. So that's ideally we want to reinforce every time when something happens, but this is we call continuous, but in reality probably we cannot do that. Therefore, we have schedule according to time. If it's according to time, we call this interval. We have fixed interval and variable. Fixed means that we have fixed time, for example, like paycheck every month. But for variable interval, we well, it depends on time, but the times changing is not fixed. For ratio is never thing what happened. If the fixed ratio is example can be commission, is its rival, it can be like random activity, random number that we reward. Alright, that's pretty much about reinforcement theory. So we have something that we should talk about in process, but how about I'll just look at you guys and you just like you cannot take it anymore. So I will continue the list next week. I know that next week we can have presentation, but I probably spend like maybe 20 minutes, and it's going to have 20 minutes in your own presentation. So we all have 20 minutes in our presentation. We have like 5 groups, so including you're gonna be 6. Okay, so that's. But I'm not worried much about my part because we also have second half that I'm gonna also teach HR, and I see motivation can go nicely with compensation management. Therefore, I'll probably leave something for compensation management later. All right. And some of you emailed me about question about your team project, which is I haven't responded, so I'm gonna respond after class. So we will see each other outside. If you want to talk to me, or in a group if you want to talk to me, we will outside class because we don't want to.